Project Sapient is a podcast meant to engage our brothers and sisters in the law enforcement and military communities in conversations that we all know we need to have. All opinions you'll hear are our own, are protected by our First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and in no way reflect or are meant to reflect the opinion of any specific agency, officer, or service member. Some opinions may be controversial. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy. Hi, Iman.
Hello, Pete.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, you know, the usual darkness and
fuckery,
whatever goes on.
Are we going to hug again?
Oh, hell no.
I'd love to.
No.
I mean, we're on camera.
No.
Just saying.
No. There'll be no hugging. This is a no hug zone.
All right, enough. Let's thank our supporters. First of all, HavocJournal.com, GymJunkies.com, VectorShields.com, WellnessForWarriors.live. We love those ladies. LiveBoston617.org, EagleEyeFirearmsMA.com, ODKit.com, GunTrack.app. And we're hitting crazy fucking milestones. We have tens of thousands of listeners. We have no idea what the hell we're doing, and we're getting tens of thousands of listeners all around the world.
You know what? It's kind of like being a cop where you just fake it till you make it. I mean, shit.
So we have an awesome person coming on the show, guys. Her name is Lisa. She's an attorney, Houle-Law.com. And from what I hear and what I can see, she's a pretty badass attorney, too.
So real quick before we bring her on.
Talk shit now while she's on.
Well, that's
mute.
what I mean. So when I saw her profile, it said defense attorney. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How is this possible?
Evil.
And then I looked more into her, and then let's bring her on before I keep going.
She's going to kick your ass. Lisa, you there?
Oh, my God. You guys are cracking me up. Yes, I am here. Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. I'm happy to come on.
So you want to tell us before we get into anything with you, do you want to give us a little bit of a background for our listeners? Now, remember, we have police officers as listeners and we have civilians as listeners too. So.
Okay. All right. So my name is Lisa Houle. I am a former LA County prosecutor. I worked in the LA County DA's office for 15 years, prosecuting some pretty bad dudes.
Yes.
And the reason I say dudes is because most of the defendants that I prosecuted were for very serious sex crimes and domestic homicides and domestic violence. And, you know, men generally tend to be defendants in those types of cases. So after 15 years as a prosecutor, I transitioned over to the dark side, as you cops like to call it. You cops.
Damn cops.
But seriously, I know, seriously. But it hasn't been as dark as you think. It's actually been very rewarding. We will talk much more about that. But it's been an awesome 6 years since I've left the DA's office. So all is well.
So let me ask you this. So as a prosecutor, 15 years, I mean, that's quite the stretch, going after prosecuting really bad individuals or dudes, as you put it, because which it's true, majority of the time the defendants are male in these types of cases.
Right.
Your work with police officers during these cases, whether it's detectives, investigators, how was the the relationship in terms, because we always talk about sometimes the disconnect between the detective or the cop on the ground and the attorneys who are in courts, and there's this gap that, you know, we almost speak the same language, but not really, because we all work in that legal realm where we, you know, us as cops apply the law and then the attorneys prosecute. So my curiosity is how was your relationship with the majority of the cops that you've worked with?
Most, if not all, of the cops that I worked with were excellent, and we had amazing professional relationships. And I say that with a smile on my face. And I really, really had a good run for 15 years with the cases that I worked and with the quality of work that was brought to me. I'm in Southern California. I'm in the Los Angeles area. As you gentlemen know, when you work with
calling us gentlemen, okay?
as you dudes know.
Yes. All right, good. Setting the tone here. Come on. Go on. I cut you off. I apologize.
When you work with big agencies, you do tend to get better training, you get better quality training, and you therefore get better police officers and better detectives.
Yep.
So, working with like LA County Sheriffs and LAPD and some of the bigger local agencies, I really have to again say that the quality of the work was generally exceptional. Also because of the seriousness of the crimes that I was prosecuting. Detectives don't get to the level where they are in a sex crimes unit or working robbery homicide unless they know what they're doing and have been trained and have been doing this for a while, obviously. So I found that, I honestly can't think of maybe 2 or 3 cases where I said to myself, like, what the fuck was this detective thinking? Like, did he totally like miss the ball on this case? I mean, that rarely happened. Rarely.
People say that to Iman all the time.
No. I was just gonna say, you're hearing all this talk about detectives,
and
right, Pete? I know, and you're looking at me. I'm like, hey, keep talking good about detectives that way, Pete.
Notice I only picked on the negative part of it. Excuse me, detective.
Oh my God. So I do think I think when you get to a certain level, you do have a very symbiotic relationship with the people that you work with, right? And so when you're talking about prosecutors and detectives, and sometimes these are like, multiple agency cases where you might have like 5 detectives on one case. I think when you get to that level where you're really, the prosecutors are very high level and then the cops are working very high level, you get great relationships, you get great cases, and you get excellent results. And, most of the time I can say that that's exactly what happened. I can't speak about sort of the lower level crimes, partially because, what's crazy? I can't say that I worked a whole bunch of like dope cases or like stolen car cases. Those weren't really my thing. Huh. And so I kind of like got sort of ushered into the special unit at a pretty early on in my career. And I just stayed there, for, most of the time I was a prosecutor. So it was a blessing. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, that tells me you as an attorney first starting out, seems, they picked up on a talent that you have or a niche, so to speak, and just kind of kept you there. That sort of happens in the law enforcement world with detectives. If you have a certain niche, whether it's narcotics cases or robberies or whatever, you tend to gravitate towards those cases a lot more. So that's kind of interesting that sort of happened. Now, before we get into the dark side that you went over, as with prosecuting, with the working relations with cops and some of these heinous crimes that the detectives had to deal with and relive every single day because they had to work these cases over and over again. What effects have you seen on the officers when they come in, or the detectives when they come in with these types of cases? And over the years, it wears on all of us, where you're dealing over and over and over again, where us, and same thing with you as prosecutor, you close that case, yep, good, now let's move on to the next one. What did you see in terms of detectives as over the years working these cases?
So that's an excellent question, and let me start by saying this. I first noticed something happening to me, which is what then caused me to start asking questions of them. And them, I mean the detectives that I worked closely with. So after about maybe, I don't know, like 8 or 10 years, and I was really getting into some pretty disturbing cases at that time, I noticed a change in me.
Wow.
I also, I started to sort of get a little paranoid just about like basic things like, driving down the street, like, oh shit, I'm going to get, hit head on by a DUI driver,
Right.
or I'm going to be walking across a parking lot and some reckless driver is going to come, plowing through and hit me and like 20 people. I started to like worry about that kind of stuff, because that's the shit that we read,
so
right?
you were a cop.
Yeah, essentially. Welcome to our world.
Right. Right.
No, I know.
Yeah.
So it started with like that little bit of sort of paranoia, sort of that hypervigilance. Like,
Yep.
what actually goes on out there.
Yeah.
The bad things that people do, and the tragedies and the traumas and all that. And of course, you cannot completely compartmentalize it, although we all try to do that. But P.S., that just doesn't work.
No.
I'm sure you all know that.
Yeah.
And it started to affect me. And then I remember I had gone, I think it might have been my second son, that I had gone out on maternity leave, and I was due to come back, and I was supposed to go back to my special unit, prosecuting, the domestic homicides and all that. And for about 3 months, I couldn't get back in the unit because there had been a rotation and my spot was temporarily gone. And I was like freaking out. And I remember coming home to my then husband, and I was like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? These are the only cases I care about. Like, I have to get back there.
Right.
And he looked at me and he was like, honey, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's okay if you took a break.
Yeah.
And I remember like getting kind of mad, like, why are you saying that? What, do you think something's wrong with me? And he was like, well, I just kind of think that maybe you could use a break. And it was at that moment that it sort of like registered, like, oh shit, like this
is affecting my life.
Affecting me.
Right.
Yeah. And we had two very young children at the time. And I think also when you have children, then all of that terrible stuff starts to affect you more, because then you think, oh my God, someone's going to run my kid off the road, or someone's going to grab my kid and drag them into a bathroom and do horrible things to them, or, a teacher, or whatever it is, all the horrible stuff that crosses our minds. So I had a little, time off from the special unit. When I got back into the unit, it was like right back into the awful, awful cases. And I was starting to like lose sleep at night, and I was starting to, sort of obsess about these things. And I thought, well, if this is happening to me, it must be happening to other people. Yeah. So I did start to ask. I started to ask some of the detectives that I was closest to.
Yeah.
And, it would just be like a real, just kind of innocent, sort of curious question. Like, does this stuff start to kind of mess with you? And the ones who were being, really honest, like brutally honest, said, oh, heck yes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm not the only one.
So it's interesting. Like, and this isn't anything towards you, but like, I'm talking to Iman when I say this, it's interesting to hear somebody that's not a cop talking exactly
like a cop. Yeah.
So it's affecting the civilian world.
Yeah.
I've never realized that in all my years.
Yeah. No,
here's the thing. I mean, that's the secondary trauma, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, or maybe it's the whatever the word is for the third level of trauma. Because I think, the victim is the first level of trauma. Yeah. Then you guys get there, and that's the secondary trauma. But then it still extends to us too.
Yeah. Well,
we have to read it.
In a sense,
go ahead.
We all go through that trauma, right? But in a sense, I kind of feel like you guys are digging deeper into it because you have more time with it.
Well, that's
you know what
exactly. I mean, the one case that comes to mind that I always tell you about is that 6-year-old sexual assault case I had and all that, and that one sticks out because that was like my very first big case, working that, and I have the drawing that the 6-year-old made me after the case was all done, and you're talking this is 2.5 years worth of work on this case, and 2.5 years of reading these reports and doing these interviews.
You're saturating your brain.
Exactly, and you're getting mentally exhausted because you see this little girl and this innocent little girl who just got violated by this disgusting pig, and I have this picture up on my at my desk. She drew me a little rose and she signed it and everything, and I use that as my reminder of why I do what I do.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, that's kind of like
Oh my God, I love that.
That's kind of like
amazing.
that's kind of like my moment of clarity, or
Clear,
you know,
yeah.
when if admin is, you know, fucking around way too much and I'm getting yelled at by the chief and whoever else and whatever, I just turn around, look at the
Right.
picture and be like, you know what, it's all worth it because
Yeah,
of
totally.
that
Right.
6-year-old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's the thing, like we, you know, again, two years of just dealing with it, and then within that 2 years, where some of the unfortunate events that would have occurred on the DA side, where I get frustrated because I know they fucked up on something, and I'm
Right.
just like, what?
Right.
Like, dude, this is a very important case. Why are you guys doing this? So then that you know you have to
Right.
roll it back and then work on it again. So it was like a
Right.
constant over and over again for me, you know, for me personally as a detective work in this case. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, like you said, you know, you asking the one of your close detectives you work with, he's like, oh, hell yeah, that affects him, which makes perfect sense
Right.
because even to this day, it still affects me because I was one of my first ones.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that picture, I'm sure, takes you right back to all of those emotions, right? You know, you look up the little drawing, and not only does it remind you of the case, but it pulls you right back to the emotional part of it. The like, I have to do exceptional work on this case to protect this child who's been, you know, just totally traumatized.
You're taking it personally.
And then,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then I completely understand your frustration with the prosecutor, because you're thinking like, dude, I have put my, you know, blood, sweat, and tears into getting this bad guy off the street. And now I need you to put your blood, sweat, and tears into making sure that he stays off the street. And
Yeah.
then they make a major mistake, and you're like, holy shit, you know, now what are we going to do?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's very, very stressful because, you know, the stakes are high. I mean, they're very, very high in these cases. Like I said, I mean, it's not like it's a dope case or a stolen car. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we'll get over it if we fuck that up. But
Yeah,
if you fuck up a child molest, you know, you're letting that kid down, that family down. You're letting potentially other victims down.
Well, that's
Future victims.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
also thought about, because this guy had a very, very very particular MO, and this MO told me how much of a predator he was.
Really?
With the grooming, and it takes him about a year or so in grooming.
Yeah.
Like he was a pure predator, and me studying him for that whole time investigating, because he's been charged before. And it's like, and it's the same thing, the MO, like you keep seeing. So to me, you know, like you said, you know, you're walking down the street, you don't know if you're going to get run over and or your kids get molested by a
Right.
teacher. To us, I call it the burden of knowledge. We have that burden of knowledge
Yeah.
because we know what's out there.
Yeah.
We know what's out there at night.
Oh, yeah.
We know what's out there. Predators like this fucking guy. I shouldn't even call him a human,
Right.
but this pig.
It's an insult to pigs.
I know, the predator that he is. It's pure predator instinct.
Yeah.
and that's something that
Yeah.
reminds me that, again, I have that picture up. Yeah, it brings back some emotion and some thoughts, but the positive side is it reminds me of why I do what I do.
Yep. And that is so, so important. And, you know, again, we can talk about this more later in the conversation, but now with my work representing, you know, first responders who get into, you know, trouble, usually off duty, you know, I learn I learn basically everything about their life because of sort of what I'm doing in to defend them. And, you know, some of these stories now that I can share from the defense side, that's exactly why I do what I do.
Yeah, so let's get.
I'll let you.
No, I was just
I'll
gonna
let
say.
you guys ask the question.
No. Let's. I mean, there's a perfect segue, like, you know, to get into now the defense side, where you protect these cops who, whether they get an OUI off duty or you know they had a. Yeah, exactly. Your chair is messing with me, dude.
You're going to fall on your ass.
I know.
Did he just fall out of his chair?
Almost.
No, this bar stool chair that we use.
You don't like my chairs, asshole?
No, it keeps.
Fucking buy your own.
It keeps. It just did this drop where, you know, you get that drop feeling.
Keeping you on your
my
toes.
God. Yeah, that's Pete's fault.
And you know what? I have something to say. You didn't mention my shirt today.
Oh shit, that's right.
Tell everybody what my
What
shirt says.
does your shirt say?
It's a big ass Care Bear.
And it says, "I don't fucking care, Bear."
Oh my God.
I'm I'm like,
oh my God.
I feel
You
like I
have to
came
send me a
home.
picture of that.
I feel like I came home and like I did my hair and you didn't fucking notice or something. Like,
welcome. I mean,
you're an ass.
My wife does this. Says, "Hey, you know, I'll wait 2 weeks later," and I was like, "Oh, did you change the color of your hair?" She's like,
Dick.
"Yeah, I did it like a week ago, asshole." I'm
Dick.
like, trained observer.
Yeah,
right
but you're
here.
doing that on purpose too. You're doing that on purpose just to stick it to her. I know you. You fuck.
Anyways,
Yeah, let's go back to the serious shit.
Sorry, the squirrel ran by us and we had to chase it.
Yeah. I get it.
So now you see that side of policing where they're off duty. They had this crazy freaking incident that occurred, whether it's an officer involved shooting or they saw a horrible crime scene or you name it, and they never got checked. You know, whether they may have gone to the hospital.
Bingo.
Yeah, exactly. They never got properly checked. Yeah, they did the check the box training check or whatever you want to call it, where they say, okay, are you good? Yeah, you're fine. Okay, cool. All right, go on to the next call. Yeah. And then that stuff starts compounding over and over, and it gets worse and it gets worse. And then they get hit with that OUI because one night it was too much and they drank too much. And all it takes
is that one extra shot.
Exactly. And let's go into how your experience as a prosecutor and in dealing with these horrible crimes and now becoming a defense attorney to protect the cops who deal with these things. Yeah. So if you could just go into how that change kind of started and why you decided to move into that arena.
Okay, so when I left the DA's office and I set out to open my practice, you know, I sort of had this thought in the back of my mind that I wanted to defend cops. I wasn't exactly sure like what I was going to do. Was I going to get involved in like admin defense or, you know, doing like IA stuff, or was I just going to go full, you know, criminal defense of police officers? And actually my first responder client was not a cop. He was a New York City firefighter who had responded to 9/11.
Okay.
And, you know, of course, that brings back a whole bunch of emotion for most people and anybody who was alive and, you know, over the age of, I don't know, you know, 10 remembers that vividly.
Oh, yeah.
I know I do. And so this wonderful, wonderful human comes into my office and says, I got a DUI. I'm a retired New York City firefighter. I responded to 9/11. I'm totally fucked up. I've got all sorts of, you know, medical retirement, blah, blah, blah. And he says, I was out at a restaurant and I had 2 glasses of wine. And then I realized I was starting to have a panic attack. And I'm listening to this story and I'm like, oh shit. And he says, and I had my therapy dog with me, and all I could think was, I got to get out of this restaurant and I got to get home. Yeah. So he literally drives like 3/4 of a mile from the restaurant back home. And he couldn't find a spot on his side of the street. So he had to like, you know, make a U-turn in the middle of the street. And he gets, of course, pulled over for an illegal U-turn. Yep. And, you know, it goes downhill from there because then they're like, have you been drinking? Yes. And he ends up getting arrested. Yeah. So the more I started talking to him, I just remember like, I know, you know, we're not supposed to get emotional, right, as cops and lawyers and whatever. But I remember thinking like, holy shit, this poor man is so messed up. Yeah. And he is literally still breaking. I mean, he broke, you know, probably during and after 9/11, and now he's out here trying to have a peaceful life, you know, living at the beach, and he's got his dog, and he's, you know, sunny Southern California, but yet he's still suffering. And that was my first real, like, heavy dose of the reality of like, oh my God, this is really heavy stuff. And it just sort of reinforced all the thoughts that I had as a prosecutor, like, this must affect people. Obviously 9/11 is an extreme example, but that was my first time where I realized there's something much greater out there that I want to be involved in and that I want to stand for and that I want to protect these people because this is not completely their fault. And that was the very first case. That's kind of what, kind of put the bug in me.
Your first case is like, it's a monster, right? Dealing with the 9/11 type of things. And now this poor guy is getting kicked when he's down.
Yeah.
Like the ultimate getting kicked when you're down.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Because remember, the 9/11, it's not just that day. I mean, they were responding. They were responding for months to look for bodies and to recover bodies and to that it never stopped. I mean, it was constant for So he was majorly physically messed up. Goodness knows he was mentally messed up, and he still has nightmares. And this is like a beautiful, strong, wonderful, just the kindest man, and he'll just never be the same. Ever. He will never be the same. Now, let me ask you, I don't know if you can tell us any kind of resolution, but after the resolution, how good did it feel helping this guy out? Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, he knows this, and I have said this before when I have been interviewed. I think about him every day. Yeah. Literally every day. He was the reason that I do this.
Would you say it became your why?
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. But I now have added a whole bunch of other whys, which of course, we can talk about because there have been some other real, critical cases that have really sort of contributed to me sticking to this as my niche, because you can, I think, get a little jaded, you get a little over it, like the novelty wears off. Yeah. And then you get another important case and another important client who bears their soul. And then you're like, oh my God, yes, this is still what I should be doing. This is my thing. I'm gifted. I have a talent and I get it. And a lot of that is because, remember, I was a prosecutor, so I understand the career, the culture, the lifestyle of police officers and firefighters and all that. So, yes. Did that answer your question?
Yes, very well. So you mentioned about other cases that you've had, and you could talk about them a little more. What I wanted to also highlight in what you do is, very different, because it's like now first responders have someone to lean on, someone that they can trust to do the right thing for them because they understand where they were, because it's that relationship that you had for 15 years working major crimes and knowing what goes on and basically in the, as prosecutors and detectives, we get into each other's minds, right? Just because, we work that much together in these cases, in these, especially these high profile major cases, where we constantly talk back and forth, where I remember on my phone late at night, I'd go, texting back and forth with prosecutors over cases because we're still technically working them. We never stop really working them. Just because we put the handcuffs on, it doesn't mean it's over. For us, we're continuing to work it. But what I wanted to ask is what other type of cases have you had where people came, first responders came to your door for help?
Oh gosh, so I can think of like 3 more that are very significant, and I will try to give you a Reader's Digest version of what those cases
Cliff
involved.
Notes.
So there was another wonderful client who was working long hours at one of the busiest stations here for a very big department in the Southern California area. So needless to say, he was seeing a lot of bad shit on every single shift. Yeah. He also was involved in a DUI accident where he and his partner were hit head on by a DUI driver. He was seriously injured. He had some, personal family stress going on. I mean, anybody who's married and has 2 young kids under the age of 3 at home can identify with that. That's stressful, right?
Fuck yeah.
So, and there was some other stuff going on in his life. So to make a long story short, he was out drinking with a buddy from another department one night, and they just ended up getting into it, and they ended up getting into a pretty serious argument. And at some point, my client who had a gun on him at the time, because goodness knows cops can't leave the house without a gun, right?
Sure.
So he had a gun on him, and as they left the bar and got back to his buddy's car, my client discharged one round, and the buddy, of course, was like, "Get the F out of my car." Pretty reasonable response at that point. So the client got out of his car, and then the buddy tried to stiff in an anonymous call, basically saying, "Hey, there was just an incident. I think you need to go to this location. Man with a gun. Blah blah blah." So, my client ends up getting arrested, and this was, for all intents and purposes, a really, really serious case.
Oh my God, yeah.
He stood to, lose his job.
Yeah.
As, as well, some people might say as well he should.
Yeah.
But we were able to get the case into an amazing position. He was suffering greatly from undiagnosed PTSD, depression. He was self-medicating with alcohol. He immediately got referred to a first responders treatment facility. And we do need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let me just, finish the story for a second. So he goes to the facility. He fully immerses himself. He doesn't, fight the system. He does exactly what they say to do. He unloads all of his bullshit.
Yeah.
And he talks about it, and he was honest, open, and willing, and he came out a completely changed man. He's been sober now for over a year. He then went into an intensive outpatient program. He started doing the first responder AA meetings. He did anything and everything that was asked of him. And he earned a complete dismissal of that case.
Wow.
The whole entire case. A
That is
felony
awesome.
negligent discharge, completely dismissed.
Wow.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how serious it gets with first responders who have issues, who never address them.
Right.
I mean, in the end, we're all human, right? We're human beings.
Yep.
We feel, we cry, we laugh, all that's emotions that come out. Contrary to popular opinion that cops aren't allowed to have emotions, fact is, we do. It's funny. We were actually talking today. I'm in a class today. They were talking. It's a bunch of doctors, MDs, neurologists, stuff like that. They do a bunch of testing on cops, and they one of the tests is before you go do an entry as a SWAT officer, heart rate. They measure the heart rate of these officers, and their heart rate is anywhere between 130 to 150. Yet you can't even tell because they're doing it. They just go in and they're doing their thing and they're done. And it was interesting to me because I'm like, wow, I never thought of it. Like that, where my heart is racing that fast and going out there. But then comes the adrenaline dump, and then after you get the panicky feelings.
Yeah.
Because
you're getting all kinds of brain dumps, dude. Dopamine, serotonin, everything's dumping in there.
Everything you were supposed to feel doing this entry is now coming after, and it's all getting dumped out. So I mean, it's just amazing. And I know you wanted to talk about this program that this first responder treatment program.
Yes.
So if you want to go into that and tell us about it.
Absolutely. So what is really important for first responders is that if and when they get to the point where they need treatment, they have to go to a treatment facility with culturally competent clinicians. And I will never, ever, ever change my opinion and my thoughts about that.
What do you mean by that?
Important. So when when you're going for treatment, you obviously need to go to somebody that can identify with sort of what your problem is, right? So if you need treatment for an eating disorder, you need to go to somebody who's an eating disorder specialist. If you need treatment for, alcoholism, you need to go to somebody that specializes in alcoholism. You can't just go to a generalist who's going to be a general therapist who has no idea what your specific issue is, because then how are they really going to be able to help you?
Let me ask you a question.
When I say culture, go ahead.
We're supposedly a fucking evolved society, right? We're very smart and educated.
Yeah.
Why is that a question?
Yeah.
Why is that a question?
Yeah.
Why is that an issue that Lisa has to deal with?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Let me tell you this. It has only been recently that first responders have finally woken up and realized that if they need treatment, they need to go to people who have experience and training and expertise treating first responders, because it's a very, very unique lifestyle. I mean, you guys know that the career is totally unique from any other career, except for maybe an emergency room doctor. But I even say that that's different, because you can be treating, frickin' Mother Teresa in the emergency room. That's a lot different than treating a frickin', triple homicide suspect who, ends up trying to stab himself and then has to go to the ER before you can book him. That's a lot different than Mother Teresa. So when you are a first responder and you have finally gotten to that point where you're like, I'm fucked up and I need help, you got to go to somebody that understands what it means to be a first responder.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to look at you like, holy shit. I mean, I've heard stories of, a firefighter going to a therapist who had never treated a firefighter before, and he starts telling stories, and she starts crying. It's like, hold on.
No shit.
That can't happen.
No.
So it's got to be people that understand the career, the culture, the lifestyle, and all of the terrible stuff that a first responder is exposed to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to be able to help that first responder. It's too much. It's too complex. It's the trauma. It's the everything. It's all of that. So, yes.
Wow.
Sorry, I could talk forever about this.
I love that. I love the passion that you have.
Exactly.
Because it's refreshing to know and to see, because I'm a war vet myself, and go through therapy. Eventually, I kind of came to my senses years ago and needed to do therapy, and who I see specializes in PTSD, right? So I'm not going to a general therapist who, if I tell them a story, they end up crying, because to me, to me, as a veteran, I need to talk to somebody that knows what the fuck they're talking about. I'm not,
absolutely,
because at first I got the therapist when the early on in the VA, I got a therapist that really had no idea what
and they were
doing.
check the box type of fucking bullshit,
and it totally turned me off, and I left and I went to private practices, and it was still like, but these are general therapists, they don't specialize in this type of treatment, so. So, and like you said, though, finally first responders are waking up to the realization that, no, I need to see a specialist, which makes perfect sense.
Right.
So
I mean, and when they're at these treatment facilities, I'm sorry to cut you off, I want to make sure that I say this. When they're at these treatment facilities, goodness knows they are not going to open up and be open, honest, and willing to surrender to the therapy if they're there with a bunch of people who are just, other civilians. They need to feel safe, right? You need to be in a safe space with other men and women who have been through the same shit that you've been through and have seen those things. Because again, it's this sort of like, distrust of the rest of the population, right? You don't want to talk about that in front of, there could be other convicted felons in the room.
Exactly.
So while you're on that topic, Lisa, is there any specific in your area that you want to maybe plug for officers listening in the area or anything that don't know or aren't aware or anything?
Oh, absolutely. So First Responders First treatment facility up in northern LA County is excellent. I've had a couple clients go through there. There's also Simple Recovery First Responder Wellness down in Orange County. Those guys down there are amazing, absolutely amazing. Some of whom you probably should bring on as guests on your podcast, by the way. And then there's a bunch of other programs. There's like the West Coast post-trauma retreat that is, one of these like multi-day retreats, and that you call it a retreat, but it's not really a retreat. Really fully immersed in the program. And then Save a Warrior, which I mentioned to you guys that I of course want to talk about, because that program literally changed my life, and I'm going to try to hold it together here. So Save a Warrior is it was founded by a veteran and former cop, Jake Clark. And if you don't follow them, you should. He started this program. Yeah, I'm just going to call it a program. When I was when I was about a week away from going to the program, I was telling everybody I was going on a retreat. And I will tell you right now, when I came out of the program, that is no freaking retreat. That is like, it is a 3.5 day, like 85, whatever hours, however many hours it ends up being, fully immersive, emotionally and physically exhausting thing that you go through to understand all of the stuff that has happened to you, childhood trauma, work trauma, everything, just everything. And, they take you through rituals and education, and they get you to finally understand like how all of this stuff has affected you. Because as we just said, it affects you. And for some of us, we get to a point. I'm sure you've heard the analogy. Your brain is like a cup, and you keep putting all the stuff into the cup, and then you keep putting it in, and then one day it just frickin' overflows.
Yep.
And you're like, oh shit, what do I do now?
Yep.
Well, there are places like Save a Warrior that can help you when you get to that point, or even before you get to that point, but where you say to yourself, I'm almost at that point.
Yeah.
And they have literally saved lives. I mean, hundreds of thousands of lives. And I will also tell you, this is a really, really sad story, but one of my clients who was a veteran, and then he was working as an emergency room nurse. So he had been arrested for domestic violence against his wife twice. He was slated to go to Save a Warrior. And unfortunately, he didn't make it in time.
No.
And it's, but stories like that, again, are that's what keeps me going. Because I'm like, we got to fight harder. We got to work harder. We've got to, contribute to these organizations. I try to make contributions to Save a Warrior when I can.
Sure.
Because I know that every dollar that goes to their program is going to help another person, find their way out of the darkness.
Well, make sure when we get off the line, make sure you send me the links to all these places, especially like the Save the Warrior, and we'll plug the hell out of it too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can't. Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
No, that's amazing work that's going on out there, especially in the West Coast with first responders and how they're able to trust certain things, because again, internally we can never go to our admin or our command staff and be like, oh yeah, I have an issue. I mean, they put you on the rubber gun squad, and then I gotta give it to my department. I gotta give it to my department. It's if I went to somebody we have a stress unit. Yeah.
We have a peer support unit and a stress unit. And if I went there and I said, I have an issue, by the time I stopped talking, I'd be on an order reassigned to the stress unit. Yeah. And I don't know what they do after that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I'm not just saying like particular departments, but we'll say, I mean, NYPD actually, they're having a major issue with their department.
Yeah, they are.
Suicides are skyrocketing over there. Yep. But their people are told if you say something, you're going to get basically placed on admin.
It's like the unwritten rule, basically.
Exactly. Like the unwritten rule that if you say something, well, if you throw the flag up, well, then you're going to get treated like a leper.
I want to basically come out and tell all these people that look down on anybody that needs help to come fucking find me.
Yeah, no, because
seriously,
they've never done the job.
Seriously, come find me, and I'll fucking tell you everything that's wrong with you, asshole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I do think it's easy for, upper level management, like the command staff to make these, blanket decisions like, oh, okay, well, if somebody says that they're, that they've got PTSD and they're suffering from a mental health issue, we got to put them on admin leave. But, those guys that are working in those positions haven't been on the streets for like 20 fucking years.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're not going to understand this, right?
Or,
and things were a lot different 20 years ago.
Or they haven't actually done the job. All they did was take the tests and get promoted. And they've never really done the job.
Their stress was they microwaved their fucking lunch for 10 more seconds by accident and burn their pretty lips.
Yeah.
Shut
exactly.
up.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that definitely has got to change. And I have said that. I said that recently to a local police captain. I was like, look, you guys need to start being proactive instead of reactive. You need to start providing these mental health services and tell these men and women, you are going to see some awful stuff that is going to mess you up. And if you aren't aware of that and don't start taking care of yourself before you see it, you will never be the same.
What do we always
different than waiting till.
Yeah, that's one thing we always say at Project Sapient, and it, the training that we're trying to roll out and everything that we're working on rolling out eventually is addressing that specific issue of realizing that you're taking on a career, a trade craft, essentially, that you need to continuously work on yourself.
Yep.
To
foundationally,
holistically, foundationally, to be great at your job, to be the best at your job, and at the same time already have the coping mechanisms you need, so if an issue is arising and you can tell it's coming.
Look, a lot of these things are a lot of these things that we have to deal with internally. They're perishable skills. It's just like anything else.
Yeah,
like if you stop taking care of your body physically, you're going to get fat.
Yeah.
If you stop taking yourself psychologically, you're going to get fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be easy to go down the rabbit hole.
And what's the first thing we do when we feel fucked up mentally? We drink.
Right.
We make poor decisions, in our marriages. We, start to lie and skip out on work. Whatever it is that we do, those coping mechanisms then are, of course, going to backfire, because every single one of those always does.
Yeah.
So yes, if we could address this from the start, I think everything in the world would be different if we addressed things at the start. But we're talking about police officers.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you're 100% right telling the captain that instead of being reactive, be proactive. That's the way it needs to be done from the academy level. As soon as the recruit walks into that academy, they need a sit-down talk and be like, "Hey, listen, after you're done doing 12 miles and 400 push-ups, we're going to have a little conversation about what this job really is and what you need to do to take care of yourself."
They also need to be exposed to it in a controlled environment.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what Sapient is going to do.
Exactly.
Like, expose these kids.
I think that's an excellent idea. Yes.
In a controlled environment, as realistic as possible, because we've all been through every single fucking trauma.
Yeah.
So, and the people that we have that are coming on as trainers, they've been through the shit too.
Yeah.
And they're legitimate.
Yeah.
So my thing has always been, there's a dismissive attitude with a lot of these things. Like a lot of the admin, they're 9-to-5ers. They're looking to go home. They don't care about anything else. That was a dig to Iman.
Shift, all right.
That was a complete dig to Iman, and he caught it, the fucker. But my thing has always been, like, even on the team, right? We there was a lot, not all of us, but there was a lot of us that followed the 7P rule. You know the 7P rule?
No, go ahead.
Proper prior planning prevents painfully poor performance.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like that.
Seven
cool.
P's.
Yeah.
Right? And if you really break down everything in your life, whether it's business or policing or dealing with trauma, proper prior planning will prevent painfully poor performance.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so
I think that's spot on. Yep.
So I think a lot of these folks like you, Lisa, who are advocates and you're opening your mouths about these things, this is all new to the field. This is all new to the industry per se, and it's sad in a way, but at the same time, it's awesome because it's happening.
Well, here's the thing: it's funny that was brought up today during class, and again, these MDs and neurologists and everything, and they talk about human performance and how there's so much research into it and everything, and it seems that first responders are so far behind learning about human performance, where you can go, let's say, the NFL and see their research on agility, mobility, all that stuff for their athletes, or go to this organization that Force Science Institute, they went to NASA to look at their theories on human performance and apply it to first responders.
Fucking astronauts.
Wow.
I mean, here's the thing. Though, the research is out there, but we as an industry,
we need to get it out there.
Never look for it, though. We never look for it.
Well, we need to force it on people, dude, because it's us. We're cops. Yeah. We don't want to fucking deal with anything extra.
I know.
But here's the thing. I mean, getting back to the obvious, I was never a cop and I will never be a cop, but
but you have the mindset.
You dudes.
Yeah, us dudes.
It's the operational mindset. When you think about the operational mindset, what are you thinking of? You're thinking of am I physically ready and can I play the mind game with the suspect?
Yeah.
But you never include the part about how all of that is then going to affect you mentally. So there's got to be a three-prong approach to
Yes.
that. Your physical, your mental game with the bad guy, and then your mental wellness when you're doing all that.
So what's interesting is sorry, just real quick before I forget it, because my ADD is about to kick in. But what's interesting is you say that about the mental game between the suspect and the first responder or the patrol officer, detective, and they actually did a study where a detective is interviewing a suspect in a regular interview, and the detective's heart rate was at 110 to 120 beats per minute because of the intensity of the exchange. You're basically playing a game.
Sure.
You're playing this game of chess or checkers with the suspect to try to figure out what's going on in his head. Try to get him to stumble, or her head to try to get him to stumble, or start poking the holes in their story. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Oh, for sure.
After an interview, I mean, that guy, the 6-year-old, I had him in the interview room for an hour and a half, and mentally drained. After I was done, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to bed." I was so mentally drained and exhausted after that, and it makes perfect sense that no one ever thinks of the after.
Yeah, you're totally right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we're all talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, these are foundational issues.
Yeah.
That it's not a mission that we can't accomplish, guys.
No, it's something we can.
It's something that we can. We're smart people to do what we have to do. Yeah. I know I'm smarter than most, but
well, again, as I always say, I thank you for my service.
I just want to tell everybody I'm awesome. Yeah. Lisa, you probably didn't hear that episode, but it was a whole episode about Iman telling us about how awesome he was.
Yeah.
So
oh my God.
Pretty much it's called Iman is awesome. And
but no, look, we're smart people, right? We can this is a mission that can easily be taken care of.
Yeah.
We need to get out there. We need people to speak.
And more importantly, you guys care because you guys get it. And I think when you care about something, like really truly care at your core, and you want to stand for something greater than you, which clearly you guys do, and I think we all have that same position about this subject.
Yeah.
Then you want to fight like hell to save other people so that they don't have to endure the type of pain that we all did, right? I mean, I don't want these poor young cops to have to see all this terrible stuff, or these poor firefighters, having to respond to, multiple, fatality car crashes. I mean, that's awful, awful stuff that no human being should see.
Well,
and you're going to see it. So
exactly. My reasoning on that is you're going to see it, right? And I actually it's not that I hate it, but I disagree with people when they say we see things that we're not supposed to see. No, we're supposed to see them
in this profession
because we're there.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
We signed up for it, right?
We signed up for it, and you're going to see it. And I want to tell these new kids, you're going to see it. Yeah. It's gonna suck.
Exactly.
But the difference between the 18-year veteran and the new kid is that he has a greater ability to have support.
Yes.
Because the first 5 traumatic experiences that I had in my department in my first 2 years, I had zero support. Yeah. And I had to figure that shit out on my own.
Yeah.
And I did, I think. I mean, I try and catch my ear once in a while, but I think I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that these people know that it's not sunshine and rainbows.
No,
it's gonna hurt.
Here's the thing. I don't remember where I read the stat or where I got it, but I read which kind of stood out to me. I read that first responders deal with 3 to 4 traumatic events, no matter how severe, whether it's a car crash, whatever it is. 3 to 4 events, traumatic events a week, where an average American may deal with 1 or 2 in their entire lives.
And that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's funny you say that. You might have heard me say that.
Maybe.
Because it's absolutely true. I mean, if you think about the average person, you go home and ask your wife, how many really awful, terrible things have you seen in your life? And your wife may say, oh, well, I was driving by and saw, a terrible traffic collision, or maybe they witnessed the death of a family member. So those are maybe two examples, right?
Yeah.
And then that's it. But a first responder, as you just said, I mean, this could be a daily, every shift. It could be multiple times.
Especially major city, where Pete works in a major city.
Yes.
I work in a major city where it's just constant.
Yeah.
We're constantly out there
Absolutely.
doing our thing.
My point is that I want people to know that there's no way of getting around it.
No.
It's okay to feel the bad things.
Right.
And it's okay to reach out for any kind of feelings you may have. We tell people all the time. And how many times have you gotten a text message from somebody or a phone call where the dude's like, "Hey, you want to go out for a beer?" And they know I don't drink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Ooh, something's going on."
Yeah.
And that's that person reaching out. And the first thing I do when I get in the car is, "Hey, I'm telling you right now, what you're doing is okay. Let's talk."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you feel the shoulders fucking drop. You feel everything. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm so
Exactly.
I want to give a plug to the ladies that we work with over at Wellness for Warriors.
100%.
They're great. Maybe actually we should get Lisa.
We should connect her.
Yeah, we should connect you both because you guys would
Absolutely.
do awesome
I would
stuff
love it.
because they're nationwide. They have representatives all over the country, and they've sent a couple first responders to me who are also military veterans, and they're struggling with issues, and I've been coaching them and talking to them, and you could tell right away. They're like, you know what? I thought I was the only one who felt this way.
Yeah,
I thought I was. It's one of those things where you these guys again. They took the first major step of reaching out. I'm a complete stranger to them.
And they reached out and told you everything.
But we have this tight brotherhood or sisterhood as cops, veterans, whatever, where we know. Again, we got each other six. That's something we always say. I got you six, dude.
It doesn't matter what it is. We got it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what it is. We will, I will do everything I can to help these guys. And I am, which we're talking every single day where we're texting back and forth, talking back and forth. And it's
that's amazing.
And
that's so great.
And it's refreshing to know that, again, these guys actually took that step, and it's a scary step, and because when I took it was
different.
Scary. I was like, it was very difficult because one, we're very proud. We're proud individuals, and good luck trying to get any cop or veteran to say anything. It takes a lot to get to us. To get into that circle because and once you get in that circle, then you'll learn things that you never thought you'd know.
Right.
So I mean, it's such amazing stuff that you guys are doing. Wellness for Warriors are doing. Save a Warrior, and Save a Warrior. Actually, I just found them on Instagram, so I gave them a follow. So I'll reach out to them.
What we need to do, Iman, is we need to just exactly what we've been doing the last few months. We're connecting all these people together.
Yeah,
we're helping expand the network.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we're also telling people
that's it.
We're also telling people there's no stigma in this shit.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. When we roll out this training and we bring all these networks together, to do this training, to teach these cops about themselves, and that's what it's about. It's not about tactics. Yeah, we're going to do tactics. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But we're going to give you the reason why you felt a certain way, or why your heart rate is like this, or why after a major operation you've got this adrenaline dump and now you're having a panic attack.
I'll tell you. I'll give you a quick example.
Right.
I'll give you a quick example. Early on in my SWAT career, which I had already been a cop for a decade almost.
Yeah.
Right. Earlier, and I'd been through the trauma. Yeah. I'd been through the PTSD. I'd been through it all. And I went through a specific operation, and I remember saying to myself, what the fuck just happened to me?
Yeah.
Like, I consider myself a strong person. I consider myself not weak, but what the fuck just happened to me? And
I've heard that same story before.
Right.
I'll tell you that right now.
Right.
Yes.
And because I had a friend that happened to witness it, that's what saved me.
Yeah.
That was the only reason what saved me. I could have gone down a fucking dark hole, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually, it's the same thing. I'll do a quick story too. Individual I nearly shot and killed during a SWAT op. 2 days later, on the way to the range, all of a sudden I started getting panicky.
Yeah.
And then, I realized, I'm like, you know what? This is now the emotions catching up from the incident 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But I had the wherewithal to realize it, where a young rookie cop, 5 years, 6 years on the job that doesn't know any better, they're not going to know what the hell just is going on with them. No, they're feeling panicky. They might run off the road. Hits, God only knows what would happen with panic attacks. We've seen them all over the place.
Yeah.
But these things are very important to talk about, and really important for all our listeners to reach out to people like Lisa, to people like Wellness for Warriors, to all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Because they're out there.
They're 100% out there, and we're always going to be out there for you. So, listen, Lisa, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much. Stick around for a minute after we do this, and then we'll talk offline for a couple minutes. But guys, we want to thank everybody. HavocJournal.com, GymJunkies.com, VectorShields.com, WellnessForWarriors.live, LiveBoston617.org, EagleEyeFirearmsMA.com, ODKit.com, GunTrack.app. We love everybody. Thank you for being listeners. Stay safe.
Stay sapient.